Hello, and welcome to another episode of Is It Bloody Working? I'm JJ Stenhouse, and with me, as ever, is Alexia Leachman. Hi, Alexia.
Hi JJ, and today is your speaker wasn't bloody working, was it, before we came on?
No, no,
Which
it
is why you've
wasn't.
got earphones on.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to have a strong talk with my computer. But yeah, anyway, but we've made it work, kind
Yeah,
of.
for sure.
So, talking of which, um, last episode, we talked about the wanting problem, the wanting to and wanting to want to issue, and we sort of looked into that a little bit. But today we're going to be taking that a little bit further. But first of all, let's just update everybody on where we are with stuff. What we've been up to this week, what we've been doing. I
Yeah,
mean,
been a
it's
busy one.
yeah, yeah,
This week I've been mainly, and I feel like for those UK viewers that remember the Fast Show today, this week I'll be mostly preparing anxiety profiles.
yeah. And this week I have mostly been been auditing our new website or our updated website. But yeah, it's been a bit of
Yeah,
it's
so
been
we
an
had a new
interesting
website
week.
go live, and I've been getting the new anxiety profile ready for launch, ready to ship. So we're in the final throes of having that. So the anxiety profile is basically for you if you want to get a clear picture of the pattern, your anxiety patterns as they currently stand. So as with all of the ways we operate, it changes all the time depending on what's going on, where we're at, what's happening in our life. And the same is true of your anxiety. So this is a profile that gives you a snapshot of where you are right now. And if you're doing anything like therapy, like meditation, mindfulness, coaching, whatever, self-help to deal with your anxiety, and you want to know, is it bloody working? That's what the profile's there to tell you. Take a before and an after, and then you'll know. So that's what we want to give you as a way of figuring out whether what you're doing is bloody working. And if it is, you can double down. And if it's not, you can stop and pivot.
Yeah, exactly. And the place to go for that will be, or is, in fact, the website, which is
Yeah.
ladderofgrowth.io. So
Forward
ladder of
slash
growth
anxiety when the
forward
profile
slash yes,
when it's
exactly.
ready. That's where it'll be sitting. So yeah, that's what we're doing this week, and it's coming along really well. We've had some really good feedback from the people that have been testing it for us. So I'm really excited to bring this out. And I had a call with my practitioners today, told them about it. They're like, "Oh, when's it ready? I want to be able to give this to the clients I'm working with, get them to do it before we start work together because it's going to help us kind of focus and take the work that we do to another level. We'd have to spend so much time in the weeds trying to figure out what's going on. So they're really excited about it. So I can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah, and me neither. And that's the key, isn't it? It's really going to help practitioners. It's going to help ordinary folk. Nobody's ordinary, everybody's extraordinary. But it'll help people who aren't practitioners to
Yeah,
see where they are. But it'll also help practitioners really get in laser focused
yeah,
in on what needs to be sorted out.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so it's
It
very
is.
exciting indeed.
Oh, I know.
And yeah, I've been getting the help of AI to help me go through everything on the website and make sure everything's working.
In fact, your mate Claude.
My mate Claude, yeah,
Yeah,
my co-worker Claude
yeah.
is keeps running out of tokens. Frankly,
He's a bit rubbish like that, isn't he?
it's a bit rubbish like that. Yeah,
I had to get his brother Max to come into the room and help out
you
with that.
did, didn't you? You did, and I haven't gone that far yet. So,
No, no,
but
no.
no,
Yeah,
we'll be fine. We'll be
yeah,
fine. So that's what we've been up to this week, and yeah, it's really interesting this notion that we're going to be talking about today of what's behind what motivates somebody to make some change in their lives, and some people will say, well, the thing is, there's a whole load of stuff goes on in the subconscious.
yeah.
So you've got to delve into the subconscious to find out what's going on in there, and then see what's happening. But it's not, is it? Always the
No, I
subconscious,
know. Well, I know, and that's a really important point. I mean, but I think the key idea that I just want to leave with everyone, just before we dive into all of this, is you want to do something, but the subconscious just says no. It's like computer says no, we're not doing that.
right?
And so yeah, so you just get blocked at every turn. And so when we talk about the subconscious saying no, like what is the subconscious exactly? Like, I feel like it's this real, like, vague coverall term that we've
Yeah.
just applied to things that we just don't know.
Yeah, and people liken it to a computer program, right? So they'll say, "Oh, there's something in your programming that's stopping it from working, stopping you from doing what you need to do." So a bit like, when things conflict within a computer setup, like my like
Speaker.
my speaker not working today. Um, you know, that's what people say is going on under the hood in we humans. But I'm not entirely sure that it is just framing that as the subconscious is the right way to go about it.
No, because programming is one thing. When I think about what programming is, and that's absolutely a valid thing to say, when we think about your programming might be the way that you were raised. So you could just got automatic reactions, default reactions. You were conditioned, raised, your culture, your upbringing, because you've behaved in a certain way all your life, it's just an automatic pattern. You don't really think about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about when I think about programming. But when I think about when the subconscious says no, like when we use that phrase and what potentially is going on, programming is one of the possibilities. But there are many other possibilities as to why you aren't moving forward or getting the thing done. It could be that your nervous system won't let you go anywhere near it because you've got
Right.
stored trauma, you've got stored memories that are within your body, and you physically can't even contemplate doing the thing. And I've had this so much, and I see it in my clients, especially with the work around pregnancy and birth, like even the very idea of thinking about pregnancy and birth for somebody with a severe anxiety for tocophobia, they you can just see their whole body freeze up. They just tense. And I was like that. My whole body would contract, it would freeze, it would close down. I'd cross my legs, I'd cross my arms. I was shutting down physically. And so that clearly isn't my programming. That's something else entirely. And
Yeah,
that was, as I know now, was that's nervous system memory for trauma that I
exactly.
picked up during birth, right? So let's not call that the subconscious either. We're kind of all piling lots of things into here. And I think we need to start becoming a lot more articulate as to what we mean by the subconscious, because it's become this generic term for, it's like if the Americans say, well, they're just not American. Well, no, but actually, if you're not American, you could be any one of a number of lots of different nationalities and cultures and people. You
Yeah.
can't just say not American. You have to kind of be a bit more specific than that. And I think we are at that place now, especially with a lot of the research and the knowledge that's coming through. Science is catching up a bit now with what many of us have known for a long time, that we need to start becoming more articulate and clear as to what is going on here, because subconscious is not good enough as a term, I don't think, anymore. What do you think?
I think that there is a lot in what you said just there, because even if it's something which is a body-based response, right, a trauma response that's lodged itself within the body, I mean, I guess that can be a driver under the hood, right? So anything, I guess what people are saying is that anything that happens under your kind of conscious mind, which is what we're using right now to talk to each other. We're using
Mm.
conscious mind a lot, not entirely, I would suggest, but that's another story. That's for another time. But we're using our conscious minds here. But anything that's happening below that, they say is subconscious. But then, yeah, we need to just identify what's happening. So is it a physical response? Is it something lodged in the body? Is it somatic? Is it something which is a learned response, which, yeah, okay, is subconscious, but that's different to other things which go on in that, subconscious world. So, a learned response is maybe different to an automatic trauma induced
Yeah,
response. That's not learned,
no,
right? So maybe we do need to sharpen up our language there.
I think we do. And I think there are so many practitioners now doing incredible work in the realms of the subconscious, the deeper parts of our being. And there are many different ways of languaging that. And there are many different incredible modalities that access these other parts of ourselves. And there are people doing incredible past life healing, and there are some people that say, well, I don't believe in that. Well, whether or not you believe it or not, there are people doing incredible work by doing that kind of healing. I'm constantly amazed at what happens in the sessions that I do when past life stuff comes up.
Yeah.
And so we can't just dismiss any of it. We have to be very open-minded, because I think what we are realizing and learning as humans is that there is far more going on than we have accepted for a long time. Many people have realized that for a while, but they've been considered fringe and a bit woo, or whatever you might describe that. But a lot of that stuff is becoming more mainstream and more accepted now. And so we need to start bringing it in with, like, welcoming it, and start discussing it like adults, and having adult conversations about these different ways that we experience the world and make sense of the world. And therefore, where the stuff that we have, what I call head trash, where it's stored. Because in the work that I do with head trash clearance, I always hunt. I like hunting for head trash, because when there's something that's not working in a client, I'm like, right, I'm going to go hunting for head trash. And so I've developed a map, and it's just a diagram essentially. And I've played with different names for it, like cartography of the mind. And I know that there's Stanislav Grof has done some incredible work with psychedelics around all of this, and trying to understand what the extent of the mind. And Freud was very limited in his view of all of that. And Stanislav Grof really expanded the scope significantly. And I was very much inspired by his work. And so what I've created is this map of the mind. And I will hunt for head trash wherever it's hiding. And it is hiding in past life stuff. It is hiding in the body. It is hiding in your in utero experience. It is hiding from the time of your conception, ancestrally, within your genetic makeup. Like, so within the body, within the data that you've acquired and inherited from your parents. These are all the places where that data is stored. And it is just data at the end of the day. We're kind of embellishing it by calling it memories and trauma and all these different words, experiences, whatever, but it's just data. It's information that has been passed on to us to help us to survive. That's all it is.
Right. And then, from my perspective, working with frequency and energy with people, I can see how that manifests in I call it a human system generally, but you can see how that is another element of it, right? So, blocks appear as blocked energy channels, or or denser frequencies, or different frequencies at least. And so where does that lie in the subconscious model, right?
Yeah, because everything is energy, right? Everything is energy, and some of it's not something you can touch or put under a microscope.
Exactly.
Right. It goes beyond the physical limits of the body, if you like.
Correct.
So, yeah. So what that's not subconscious, is it? But it's definitely part of your ethereal system, if you like, because even human does limit it somewhat to the boundary where your skin ends.
Yes.
But then beyond that, then you have the aura, or your whatever around you. So yeah. But there's still energy around that. Like, I've had experiences, I'm sure everybody's had, well, we've all had these experiences where you are with people, you get in the room with them, and you just suddenly feel like, oh, I've just got to get out of this room. The energy is just too much. Yeah. That's not because you've touched them. That's just because you feel them. And that too is data that we're picking up on. And we have our own field of data that we're carrying around with us that affects other people in the same way. That's not subconscious, but it's still affecting us.
And it is still not conscious.
Right, exactly.
Such, right?
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. I don't think we're going to land on any.
Today.
No, exactly. We're not going to land on the answers today. But it's really interesting to explore that and say, what do we mean when we talk about the subconscious? And then, okay, so we were talking about your subconscious saying no, right? Now, that resistance isn't just it's not a pathology. It's not something which is kind of weird and wonderful, but it's actually doing a job. It's saying, I don't feel safe with that, not doing that, not going there. So but then do we how do we find out what it is that's causing us to feel that something isn't safe? I mean, that's one of the blocks as well, isn't it?
It's not just about I'm not feeling safe. It just might be like well, I don't want to play that. I want to go and do that over there. And
right.
So, like, if you think about allergies, for example, you think that allergies is a condition that you can take medicine for and all of that stuff, and or that you can't change it because it's just the way that you're wired or whatever. And somebody once told me a long, long time ago, and it really stuck with me, that allergies is just your body trying to protect you. And that was really interesting for me because
Yeah.
I, my whole life, had a really bad dog allergy and cat allergy. And I couldn't spend more than 10 minutes with a dog before like not being able to breathe and need like my inhaler had to be taken out of the room because I just couldn't function near a dog. Cats were pretty much the same. And then when I learned that allergies could be a way of your body protecting you, then I remembered that when I was 3 or 4, the neighbour's Dalmatian dog tried to bite me or went for me. My dad put his leg in the way and he got bit. And then the dog got put down because the dog went to attack a child. Now, because I'm half French, I would have observed the dog being there 1 minute and then not there the next. But then when it was explained to me where the dog went in French, it was said, donner la piqûre, which means given the injection. And then he died. So 2 things happened to me as a result of that experience. Is one, I had a dog allergy because I would learned not to go near them because they might bite your head off, quite literally. But the other one is that injections can kill, which is why I could never go near a needle my whole life.
Right. Yeah.
And that one incident fed 2 things. But the idea that allergies are just protecting you is a really interesting one, because in the situation that we're talking about today, we're not like, well, I don't feel safe. It's just, well, no, there is safety there, but it's actually, well, we're just going to go over here and we're going to try and do X, Y, Z, because also your goals are driving you in a certain direction. Your values are driving you in a certain direction. So maybe you're behaving beneath the surface because you're trying to get nearer your goals. You're trying to live in accordance to your values. So it's not like you're trying to get to a place of safety. You're just trying to fulfill something that you've identified that you want. And so it's
Yeah.
pulling you in that direction. But that might be a vow that you made in a moment of anger. So a lot of the work I've done in sessions as well is we kind of nullify some of these vows we've made subconsciously, whether knowingly or unknowingly, whether in anger or not. And I know I've made some of these, even in moments when, I've had incredible losses and people have died. I was like, well, I don't want this. I just want them back. And so the thing that I said I didn't want was eluding me for a long time, because in that moment of grief and despair, I just said, I just don't want any of this. I just want her back. And so, so I was denying the thing that actually I did want, but because it was that vow, that statement was made in a moment of heightened emotion, that heightened emotion locked it in.
Right.
And it took
Yeah.
years of digging to uncover it and then wipe it clean. So,
Well, yeah. Yeah.
right.
I mean, yeah. I'm just thinking, I mean, you know, that I've had experience of that myself after a lifetime of having a very deep-seated anxiety problem, which most people who know anything about it call tocophobia, but you came up with a new name for it, reproductive anxiety disorder. So it's a deep, deep, deep pathological fear of pregnancy and childbirth. Now, I'd lived with this deep anxiety all my life, could never quite get down to it, could never quite get rid of it, I couldn't really work out where it came from or what it was until I found out and could put a name to it, which was tocophobia. And then I was able to clear it. Then I was able to get rid, because I knew exactly what was going on. And I could say, no, I don't want this anymore. This is what I don't want anymore. But when it was amorphous, when it was just, oh yeah, there's that anxiety, that feeling in my solar plexus that I can't quite ever get rid of, couldn't touch it.
Yeah.
So
and even though you wanted to get, like, you'd spend a lot of time doing the healing work, you've spent a lot of time hunting that down.
Yeah.
But until you were able to eyeball it or name it or shine a light on it, or you knew of its very existence, you couldn't. And so that wasn't that you didn't want it. It was that there was a very deep part of you that was refusing to let that go because it needed
correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah. But as soon as you shine a light on something like that, then you can actually make a move and get rid. But there's something else, of course, that crops up very, very often, and that is the idea of secondary gain. So you want something, but you feel that subconsciously, you feel that you get something more, that you want more from having the thing that you don't want, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
so you want, say you're in a relationship and you want to leave, but actually, while you're in the relationship, there's a lot that you like.
Mm.
So you're not motivated to leave, but you
Yeah.
still complain about it. But so, that's one example. There are many examples of that.
Yeah, yeah. We talked a lot about this last week, about this secondary gain. I think a lot of
Yeah,
practitioners see this time and time again because it's a classic example of subconscious saying no. But I often think though with secondary gain that the person kind of does know. I don't think it's completely hidden from them all the time. I think they're aware.
yeah.
They're just doing a very good job of pretending not to be aware, but maybe that's just they just need to be called out sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe there is an inkling of it, but it's not recognized. I mean, it's very easy to push that into the background and not pay
Mm.
attention to that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, maybe people do understand what's
yeah,
going
yeah,
on, but they'd rather not face that,
yeah, yeah,
and so they sort of push it back.
yeah.
But yeah, so that does exist. And then, of course, what you have to do is replace that secondary gain notion with something which is worth exchanging for that
Mm,
secondary gain.
mm.
And then people can move on.
Now, I want to
So,
talk about the resistance piece because this I don't think is
mm,
talked about. Like secondary gain is talked about a lot among
mm,
practitioners, but resistance, not so much.
mm-hmm,
And resistance, as I've found through the work that I do, it's like this force, this blanket that affects everyone to varying degrees. And sometimes you have to just deal with the resistance before you start any kind of change work. It's almost like the brakes are just jammed on, no matter what. And maybe that resistance is coming from a fear of change. Because even though they want change, they also fear it. Because with change comes uncertainty. And if you have a high level of anxiety, then uncertainty means trouble because now you don't know how things are going to go. And that is unsettling for your anxiety. So it's all tied into this. But resistance on its own is a force on its own to be reckoned with. It's its own thing. And I've found that through the work that I do, that I've spent dedicated sessions up front with clients, just clearing the resistance. So it's almost like we just got to get through the resistance so that we can just get on with the job. And when I came up with a metaphor, a very elaborate metaphor for growth, which is called the House of Growth. And I'll just talk about it briefly. We've got it on the Ladder of Growth website. It's also on the Head
mm.
Trash website as well, because it's an important metaphor in terms of it really helps you understand the nature of growth and healing and the order in which to go about it. But imagine, if you will, a large, beautiful country house, like you have those wonderful homes in the UK that you can go visit with the National Trust, right? And so they're very manicured gardens, big stairs leading up to a massive door. And the door, the big door that's probably 5 times bigger than any regular door, that's really heavy, and it might even open in the middle with big metal knockers on it or whatever. That is resistance. Sometimes you can't even get into the bloody house because the door's so heavy. And sometimes there are bouncers on the door, even stopping you getting near the door. So if you can't even get into the house, which represents growth and healing and all the things you need to do, you can't get anything done. And resistance is the door, and sometimes it's got bouncers. And until you deal with that, you're not getting anywhere. So dealing with the resistance that is keeping you from even going near the idea of growth and change is an important thing to consider as a thing on its own. It doesn't necessarily have trauma behind it. It doesn't necessarily have anything else going on. It's its own thing, as I've discovered.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. So my next question was going to be, so where does this resistance come from? You just,
Well,
you know,
sometimes there is trauma at the
yeah.
root, but sometimes there isn't. And it continues to be one of those things that I learn more about, but I always look for it when before I start work, because I've been caught out by enough times that I think I'm going to just check for this at the beginning. And once I check for it and we work on it, and I'll give you when I first stumbled upon it personally. So I developed head trash clearance. I've been using it myself for many, many years. And then I stumbled, I thought, oh, I'm going to clear resistance as a thing. It seemed like a really odd thing for me to do at the time. And to do a clearance using my method, at the beginning when you start doing it, because you've got lots of energy that needs to be cleared, lots of energetic load that you're clearing, a clearance might take half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. But I'd managed to get mine down to like 5 minutes because I'd cleared so much that my clearance is very quick at that point. And then I decided to do a resistance clearance. I spent like half an hour on like the first
Really?
portion of it. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, what's
Wow.
going on? The whole thing took me 2 hours. I'd never seen that before in any of my clearances, even when I was clearing traumas. And I was like, well, that's crazy. And this has been repeated, this pattern where people have done a lot of clearance and then they hit the resistance button. And sometimes we call it sabotage or blocking myself, or it can be language slightly differently depending on the individual. But it seems to be this its unique thing on its own that needs dealing with. And it is like just dealing with the brakes. Maybe you just need to take the brakes off. It doesn't necessarily mean it's tied into anything specific. It's just this, it's force in its own right, as I've discovered.
Wow. So, and I'm still sitting here thinking that there must be something that is behind it, right? But you reckon that not always. That's
Well, sometimes
fascinating.
there is a root trauma. So sometimes
Mm.
I'm doing some wound healing around resistance. And so
Yeah.
maybe you put that in because maybe there was a situation that led you to put the brakes on because whatever, things went too fast. Something happened. Maybe something happened. The problem is, and going back to what we said at the very beginning about where the data for these patterns originate, we
Mm.
don't know because it doesn't all originate in our lifetime. And even if it did originate in our lifetime, we can't remember all of it. So it's the conscious mind can only remember what 10, 15% of whatever's gone on in our lives.
Yeah.
But then it's not just what we can't remember or what we've chosen to file in a different place in our mind, body, subconscious. It's also the data that we've acquired and inherited and arrived in. So when what data did we pick up on in utero? What data did we pick up on from our parents in the family line that is just baked into us,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So that data, so where does resistance come from? Well, a whole like 150 generations of humans that came before you, that's where it came from, right? It's an accumulation of stuff that we haven't yet been clearing. And also because probably nobody's really talked about resistance as a thing in its own right. Maybe it's just gone under the radar, which is why it's such a big thing now. Who knows? I don't know.
It is fascinating, isn't it? And ancestral trauma, ancestral patterning is so important. And we're only just beginning to take that on board, aren't we? So
Yeah.
I'm glad that people are realizing that that is an issue, is a thing now,
Yeah.
because we carry trauma, we carry memory in ourselves. Science is proving that. Science is proving that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is also, that's fascinating,
But we
really
don't need to
fascinating.
lean on science to prove that. I think like we are surrounded by, I think I might have mentioned this last time or in another conversation about dog breeds. Like
Yeah.
we breed dogs and so they learn. And the reason why, like, I've got a border collie. If you see me with my border, I take him for walks every day. And they've got white tails and they're known as the lantern, the night lantern or something. And so that when the shepherds are walking home at night, they just see the
Mm.
dog tail and they could just follow the dog tail. And so obviously the dogs were chosen, the ones with the white tails were chosen because they could help the shepherd walk home at night. So that just became part of the breed because everyone was picked with that. And also they were bred to chase a moving a sheep, right? So they were all this information that has made the border collie the dog it is today is data that's been passed down. And the ones that had that information, had that programming, had that setup, they were the ones that kept going and were picked out of the litter. And
Yeah.
so that information has been passed on. So now every dog breed that's good at whatever it does is this information that's past life information that's been coming through. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
calling it trauma, it's data.
Yeah.
And so the same is going on for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'm totally agree with you. I'm absolutely with you on that one. So, yeah. So then, where there's resistance, and whether that's subconscious, the generic term, or wherever that comes from, what are the things that can help clear it for us? I mean, there are many modalities, methodologies, which some help some people, others don't. But what are the things that I mean, you've got your own methodology.
Yeah.
What are the things that you've seen that say to you, oh yeah, okay, so I can see how this helps that, what can clear this otherwise known as subconscious resistance?
I think
What
the
are the things we need to
modality,
look for?
I think the modality that is going to work is the modality that reflects the layer where the resistance is hiding. And I think we can all agree that it won't be talk therapy because the
Right.
resistance isn't hiding in the conscious mind. Otherwise, we'd be able to bat it aside.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
we can eliminate talk therapy immediately on that basis. But the ones that are going to work, somatic therapy will be good for those where it's in the body. They're going to be
Right.
past life healing is going to be good if it's a past life issue for you. I think that's why we need to have lexicon for these other aspects of our psyche, if you like, so that we can pinpoint where the thing is hiding and then find the right modality or method or approach to target the layer that we need. That's what's missing in change
Yeah.
work, is this agreed, this kind of map of the psyche in that way that extends in scope sufficiently and that can align you with the right approach method for where your thing is, for where the block or the head trash is hiding.
But it's interesting, isn't it, as well, because you're talking about a map of the psyche, but psyche kind of implies mind,
Yeah.
but it's not always in the mind.
No,
That's the
exactly.
thing.
And that's why the word itself is wrong. And when I was
Right.
developing my own map, I was spending ages thinking, well, what am I going to call this? Because psyche is
Right.
the wrong word. And so I ended up landing on the animus. But even then, I'm not 100% sure about animus either, because that felt a little bit more extended. So it's to be confirmed in my mind. But we definitely need to have some way of articulating and describing the scope of where things can hide that are affecting us in our lives today as individuals in terms of our inner world.
Yeah. We see that's why I always talk about the human system and don't talk about the body or the mind, but the system, because the system covers everything, right?
Yeah.
It covers your energetic, physical, whatever you want to call it, system. So then you don't get bogged down in whether something's physical, mental, emotional, all of that. So maybe we need to start mapping things out on a system level.
Yeah. And there are, I think with all the systems that we're familiar with, the endocrine system, the nervous system, the this system, the muscular system, like there's all these various systems that we're familiar with. And so I think we understand that there are all these systems, but is there a way for all of those systems to be on one map?
I know.
That's why, like you think about different countries on a map and an atlas, you think about, well, there are all these possibilities about where the thing could be hiding. And so it's bringing together all these possible systems in one place so we can look at them all together and go, well, where is this hiding? Is this, and often we find, when you think about people that do body work, for example, if there's a muscular tension or there's tightness in what's going on, then that's often rooted in emotional dis-ease. That's I think a lot of body workers would agree with me on that sometimes the root behind the physical tension is within the emotional system.
Yeah.
But then what is driving the emotional system? Where's that hiding? And so we need to go deeper. And that's where we suddenly find ourselves in the wild west of the subconscious, where it's, it could be, we need to start finding words to describe this in a way that we can all communicate these ideas clearly to each other as practitioners, because at the moment we're just fumbling around, I think, with all of this.
Yeah, and it's looking at the human system as something which isn't just 2D, it's 3D easily, at least 3D. So what I have in my mind right now is this kind of 3D kind of vision of a human system with all the intricate bits and pieces all going in and out. I would love to see something like that, with all the different systems and all the sort of, so-called subconscious areas highlight, all of that highlighted. It would
be 4D, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be 4D?
Well, I was going to go into the 4D, but
when you think about frequency and the energy,
right, which but you could probably map that onto some kind of 3D model. But yes, you're right, it goes beyond dimension. That. Yeah, it goes beyond that. So I'd love to see something like that, and I think when we get to that, we'll be able to better identify where things lie in the human system. But for now, we don't have that. So
No, but we could ask Claude later.
our friend,
Yeah.
our friend Claude, such a good friend. Yeah, no, for now we don't know. So, but there are things which work in different scenarios which work very well,
Mm,
and they don't have to take up months and months of talk therapy. Things can happen quite quickly, can't they?
very quickly. Yeah. And I think the speed of change is a whole different conversation, but I think it's important for people to understand that if they want change to be rapid, that can absolutely be the case. When people say, "Oh, well, I've had this for, my whole life," it doesn't mean it's going to take another lifetime to get rid of it. It just means you
No.
haven't found the thing that's going to move it within 5, 10 minutes or an hour or a week, right? All of those rapid changes absolutely where we're at right now in terms of capabilities. Unfortunately, a
Yeah.
lot of people still think things take a long time, and they
Yeah.
absolutely don't need to. So it's about being clear about what kind of change are you up for. And this is where resistance kicks in, because some people don't want fast change. They want things to be slow because they need time to adjust
Absolutely.
and to get used to things. And that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
But it's about being honest with yourself about what's going to work for you. In the work that I've done around pregnancy and childbirth, women haven't got a long time. They've either got a due date hurling their way and they need to feel better quickly, or they've got their body clock ticking against them and they also need to do the change quick, right? So some people have got all the time in the world to make the change, others don't. And I think it's important that we're clear on what's available to who so that we can make the choice that best fits what's best for us, right? And I think the pairing up the speed of change, the capacity for change and how quickly that can happen, but also acknowledging the role that resistance can play in that can put the brakes on unwittingly for some. And I've witnessed that a lot. Women that do want to desperately change, and yet the resistance is really strong. There's a subconscious saying no. And it's about hunting down the part of them that's saying no. And that's where all these different layers come in, these different systems. And if we had a much more a method or an approach that practitioners use to hunt down the layer that is blocking, the layer that's saying no, that would enable us to help people to heal quicker and to be more aligned in terms of living the life that's going to make them happy. We want to tune into the things that are bloody working, right?
Yeah, we do, and there are there's loads of practitioners out there who are very good at tuning into or helping clients tune into that sort of thing and getting rid of things quickly. Um, you, but it's not universal, unfortunately. Sometimes people find that they're dawdling along, trying this, that, and the other thing, and never getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So is that just because they are being resistant, or is it because they just haven't found the right thing, or what do you think?
I think, and this is where what we're doing with ladder of growth comes in, because if you can measure what you're doing, you can ascertain rapidly whether it's the thing that you're doing, maybe that's not working, or it is resistant. So maybe the thing isn't working. And maybe there is, I don't know if I'm digging myself into a hole here, because maybe it isn't going to be a ladder of growth assessment that's going to help you out of that, because it could be that the modality, there are things shifting, there are things moving, but maybe you then hit a wall. And that's where
Yeah.
subconscious says no. But having the data to know what is moving and what isn't moving gives you the visibility to be able to make a decision and say, I'm going to carry on doing this because it is starting to move the needle, or I've done this 6 months and nothing's changed. I probably need to change tack and pivot. That kind of information is really useful for those who are committed to change or who want to change, because we aren't going to live forever. We do want to, I would hope, change and live the life that's going to make us happier sooner rather than later. Because if you are wrestling with anxiety or feeling unhappy for whatever reason, if that was me, I'd want to change and be happy soon and quickly and not stay in my anxiety for many, many years. So understanding what is working, I think, is really important for people.
Yeah, and understanding what's maybe keeping you in that space where you're not going forward. So what's keeping me from it, right?
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
what's the secondary gain maybe that's
yeah.
keeping me from doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So um kind of, I think, brings us towards the end of this episode. You've got any other thoughts that you wanted to add on this one?
No, well, I did have a metaphor that I did want to share today, which I completely forgot, which I would like to just share.
I was going to ask you about that because you did say
Yeah,
before we started recording. Go on, go for it, go for it.
and it's the galley metaphor. So if you imagine that your conscious mind is the captain of the galley, and it's like, we're going north, people. That's where we're heading. There's gold on that, on that coast, and that's where we're going. That's what we've got to go and get. And the whole galley's being manned by like 400 slaves below deck, all rowing. And let's say somebody below deck is like, hey, no, North's bad. They're gonna take us, and they're gonna sell us to other people on that shoreline. We need to not head to that shoreline. We need to head over to a different, west is where we need to head. And so all the rowers are like, you know what, sack off. We're going to sack off north. We're going to go west. And the captain doesn't know. And they've decided they're all going to start rowing in a different direction. And then the captain's thinking, well, hang on a minute. I said north. Doesn't matter what you said. You can have all the intentions in the world to go north, but if everything below deck is pointing west, you ain't ever going to get north. And that's very similar to what's going on inside of us. We might think we're heading in a certain direction. We might think that's where we're going. And then you think, well, hang on, I'm still not getting there. This goal is eluding me. I'm not getting there. What is going on? And that's because below deck, you're just drifting off course. You're dragging yourself over to maybe this vow that you made without realizing in a heated moment when you were 8, or a past life trauma, or whatever's going on is taking you off west. And you just didn't know that was at play until you kind of realized that the north is still not nearer than it was 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's a useful one to bear in mind, because you can think that you're heading, that you've made the plan. I've got the goal, I've got the coach, I've made the plans, I've bought the app, I'm doing the thing every day. Whatever it is that you're doing, you might be doing all the things. But if you've missed what's going on below deck, it doesn't matter that you're doing all the things, because there's another plan at play that you haven't figured out yet.
Right, exactly. I do love your metaphors. You're very good at coming up with these metaphors. They're fantastic. I will go away thinking of the galley now, with the slaves with their oars going madly in the opposite direction to that they've been told to go in. But no, that's it's a great way of explaining it. And so then, maybe if people want to get a snapshot of where they are and what might be holding them back, they could go on to lateralgrowth.io and do one of the assessments that we have on there. Or,
we've got a free one.
We've got a free one. Yeah, we've got a life ladder just to give you a bit of a snapshot as to where you are now in life.
Yeah.
So you can do that. Won't cost you a penny. Yeah. Sorry, you were going to, I interrupted you there.
No, that was it. I just wanted to, if you want to just try the life ladder, do it for free. Take a minute or two to do that and get a read. And that's a starting point to get a sense of how that works.
It is a good starting point. Or you can, we'll come to our little end point here, our sit spot, which is named after the very lovely practice of going to the same place every day and just noticing what's changed around you. So we're inviting you this episode to take a few minutes, find a comfortable spot to sit down in, and just let everything go and let your mind take you to something that you have really wanted for some time. A change that you wanted to make, or anything really that you've wanted for a while. Then ask yourself honestly, is there anything that you'd have to give up to have this thing that you want? And what does that say to you? What feeling does that give you? What do you do with that information? Just notice what comes up first. Don't push it away. Don't try to reason, with it and say, oh, well, that's because. No, just notice what comes up. And I think that's going to be good information.
Yeah. Data. Always.
Data. The data queen has spoken. Yeah. Brilliant.
I have charts.
You have charts, you have the data. So yeah, I seriously invite you to do that, because it's a really interesting thing to do and it might surprise you. So I leave you with that. We both leave you with that. Thank you very much for joining us today. And it's goodbye from me, and Alexia, goodbye from you.
Yeah, goodbye from me too. See you next week.
See you next week.